Huh? Just cry. Yeah, it's true. It's okay to cry. Cry. No, let's smile. I'm just going to change it to cry. Cry when the world is crazy. Cry. It's okay to cry. Like, oh God. It's okay to let it out. To cry. I keep on saying, like Superman is also Clark Kent. And the dopey guy with glasses and nice thing. And, oh yes, Lewis. Yes, Lewis. And he's Superman, but yet he also cries. Superman. He can fly, he can crash, he can whatever, but he also cries. Yeah. Jesus cried. And yet it's okay to cry. And then after crying, you sing. See, after crying, you sing. Don't just cry the whole day. Start with a hum. And then when you start with a hum, change to songs. Songs change to prayer. And from prayer, change to smile. And then you move forward.
I want to talk about my childhood periods.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, there was a friend who blamed the friends who was in lower position. So I was not the side of the be bullied by the people, but my friends who was Christian, he was bullied by some guys.
Okay.
So I sometimes help them. I sometimes to be a friend for them to eat together or talk together because I'm Christian and he also is Christian. So, but one day I also become one of the members who bullied by them because I always together them. So I started pray for the guy who bullied the people, the friends, as you said, as you taught. So. God, I blessed him. I want him to go to the good university. I want him to be blessed and believe you. And I'm not sure, but for me, or anyway, he go to good university. He went to good university, and he's still bullying the people. So, I am, as you know, blessed. The person who persecute me is very difficult and very suffering.
Yes. It's true.
So sometimes I also try nowadays samely, but I'm not sure. In this generation, many words, many publication, many publishment, they always say that just neglect, don't care with them anymore. Don't think of that. Oh, you don't have to think him much more than before, because he is he and you are you. Yeah, it's very simple way, simplest way, and you can avoid everything, and you can be free from the obligation to bless them. Yeah, I think this is the generation saying. So, I'm not sure if some close friend suffers from same things. To tell the truth, I don't want to say that. Bless him, even though you are very suffering. Yeah, but how about your thing? How about you?
I think it's a very interesting point, because my view is this, especially if you have a generation that says ignore and try everything else. But my question is, for example, when you face, or when the person faces that moment, difficulties, for example, if I am bullied and the bully comes to me at that moment, do I simply ignore him? It's difficult to just simply ignore when he's saying all of these things and doing those things. I feel bad and everything else. So my thing is that my response to it should be to show the opposite. Should be basically to show what kind of person I am. and also challenge the way the person thinks. Do I think the person will change right there and there? Probably not. But the things I will say will be there in the person's mind. And he will think about it. You know, just simply ignoring and whatever, that doesn't go, the person will still continue. You know, because it's very empowering. But to challenge the source of that power with something that is good and pure, then it's something quite different, it's quite good. He wants to talk.
What do you want to talk?
Yeah, so basically, that's what I would say. Challenge the thoughts. When someone's like, you do that, oh, well, have a nice day, God bless you. What? Yes, you know, have a nice day, God bless you. I hope, oh, do you have a test tomorrow? Well, I'll be praying for you. Crazy person, he will leave. You see, because, and you know, even offer, they think, you know, if you need help, you know, come, I'll help you out. You know, show goodness to the person, and that was, you're basically taking the source of his or her power away. You know, the source of gratification to see you suffer, but you show, nah. And you basically, you're taking that power away. You see? That's why even for the Christians, just imagine how many Roman soldiers became Christians just by their reactions and responses of Christians during Paul's time. You see? And so it's very, very important of how you respond. Simple, staying quiet, the person still has the power. But by challenging the way he thinks, the way he understands, you're eating it away from the source of his power, gratification. Any thoughts? Yeah? It's like a child. Okay, he's very interested in this. All right. So from here, that line is very nice. Is it good? You see, you push it down, you put it up and it goes down like this, okay? What goes up, goes down. Next? Alright. Now go over there and go through something up and down. Go through the cushion over there. Okay? Over there. Go up and down there. Right there. Oh, it's interesting. Right? He's so into this. Okay. Alright. Any thoughts? Any more comments? Nothing?
Sufficient grace. You just need sufficient grace.
You need God's grace.
Because I am a person who usually 0 to 100 very fast.
Yeah.
But it's taken time to really have the patience and asking God for grace. So that when someone is saying something or hurting someone else and you try to find, you need grace and you also need wisdom to be able to handle certain situations.
True.
So you need a lot of grace and wisdom to be able to overcome such.
True. Because we simply cannot deal with any of those difficulties of ourselves. So that's the beauty, yes. Ask for wisdom. You know, if anyone lacks wisdom, then he asks for it. I always do like, oh God, I mean, what do I do now? You know. So yes, we do need grace. We do need wisdom to deal with some of these situations. Anything else? Anything else? All right. So, yeah, continue trying to figure that out. And so, yes. Do this. Okay. Now you try, baby. You try. Okay. Yeah, try. And so, today, what we know in Bible study. I have to get going very quickly because there are some people I have to meet. professors of Goshen University. So I do hope to see you again next week. So again, very important thing about today's message is very, very important. It is the true nature of love, which is, first of all, the love for God, the love for God's people, and above all, the love for your enemies. The love for God, hallelujah. The love for God's people, oh yeah. The love for your enemies, what? But yet it's something very, very important. Amen?
Just remember that they are ones and the same.
Living sacrifice unto the Lord. And it says, do not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. I want to see quickly if I still have the PowerPoint. That's not here. Hang on, let me try and see it. Pray real hard. Yay, it's here. All right. All right, so for those who were not here last week, we said that, well, first and foremost, the whole thing of, okay, let's read it. Do not, therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in the view of God's presence, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. In verse 2, do not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve God's will. What God's will is His good, pleasing, and perfect will. And of course, you can read the rest, but of course, the main thing is this. You know, sometimes the whole thing of conformity, to conform. What does it mean to conform to something?
To follow the pattern.
Yeah, that's true. To follow a pattern. Right. Let's think of to accept and follow basically a system of thought. Because it's not just a matter of mental acceptance, but also of what taking that and making that part of your life. And of course, to renew basically means to what? To restore something to its original condition. And so, these are very important words that Paul uses here. Because when he says do not conform to the patterns of the world, but the patterns of this world means the system of thought first, because the thinking basically controls your action as well. So when you accept the system of thought of what the world says is right and wrong, good and evil, and then you live it out in your life, that is conformity. But it's very interesting because before that, when we talk about the remnant, what is a remnant? The remnant basically means, when you look at in chapter 11, the word remnant basically means something that is left behind. Right. And so when you leave something behind, it means that to you it's not something very valuable. So in a general word, basically, it's like the Korean word like 쓰레기, trash. You leave it behind because it's worthless to you. Right. But so the world, basically, to the world we are trash. You see? But that's the whole thing, because what the world thinks is important is what may not be what God thinks to be important. So the world throws out things that are of God as 쓰레기. But what the world throws out, it is basically like for us, we belong to God. So we are the remnant of God. That means we're very important. And what is important to God is what is trash to the world. And so that's why the thinking and the system of thought in both sides is quite different. So if we are trash in a way, basically we tend to stand out. That's basically it. We tend to stand out. We are not like everybody else. Our thinking is different. Our actions are different. Everything is different. And so if you are different from everybody else, you stand out. And so the world does not like people who do not conform to that system. So they think you're trash. But guess what? To be trash to the world is to be important to God. Right? So in other words, you must be happy to be trash. If someone says, you're trash, like, thank you. Yes, I'm sitting, yes! Because the world thinks you're trash, God thinks you are treasure. You see? So this is basically what it means. Now going back to this. Let me close it right now to today's PowerPoint. Now, so for today, basically, the focus then changes to then us. How should we then live? And this is very important because of the situation and the time that Paul is writing. All right, so let's read. It says, love must be sincere. Hate what is evil.
Cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor, serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of all position. Do not be conceited.
Wow. You see. So of course we talk about the true nature of love, but of course, can you read that? It says,
words can be beautiful.
words can be beautiful, but
Love
is action. It's action. That's what it is. You know, Valentine's Day and White Day in Korea. You know, it's a thing of, you know, sending words like, oh, I love you, I love you, blah, blah, blah. If you love me, where are the chocolates? Show me. Chocolates. But the thing of, you know, words can be beautiful, but the thing of love is action. You know that someone loves you because of what they do for you. You know, whether they sacrifice their time and if you want to be with you and actually show you how much they love you. Now, the whole thing of love is very, very important because especially during persecution, and I mentioned this before quite a while back, but I think it's worth noting. Now, during the persecution time, you had sort of a rift sometimes in communities, right? And so, usually, during the time of struggles and persecution, they tend to be feared. People are afraid. Why? Because just imagine, if coming together as Christians was illegal, people fear of what? When people come together, always fear that there will be what?
A rat.
A rat. A spy. We will go and like, oh, guess what? There's a meeting among us. And so that usually causes a sense of suspicion and everything else. So when people are very suspicious of one another, is there unity? No. Does the group tend to grow well and function well and become strong and healthy? No. Because sometimes, and especially like in South Africa during apartheid, you find that innocent people were killed because some people thought he must be a spy. He must be a spy. And guess what? In Bimbi. That's right. And so they kill you. You know, and sometimes even without evidence, no evidence, just that someone says, I think Gabriel might be a spy. Get him! The whole mob, and that's it. You know. So there's a thing of fear and suspicion during the difficult times. Now Paul, in a way, is trying to take the fear out. And for them to also to focus on something that's very important. That's why he says, verse 9, let your love be sincere. In other words, don't be afraid. If you die, don't be afraid. Continue to show love to all people. Right? So, the main thing, first of all, verse 9 and 10, first he focuses on the attitudes towards others. Right? This is verse 9. It says what? Love must be sincere. Hate what is good. Cling to
what is good.
good. Right. Be devoted to
One another
in love.
love.
Right. Be devoted to one another. Now, this is something very important because it means what? Don't think of whether someone is a spy or not, or whatever. That is not important. What is important? The other person. Be devoted to one another. Devotion, that means sacrifice yourself for the other person, not for yourself. And then next one, honor one another above yourself. Don't try to have competition. Don't try to be better than somebody else. Your focus is not on yourself, but on others. Now, during difficult times, usually people tend to be quite selfish. Right? Yes? You think the question, oh, why me? Why am I in this situation? Why this? Why that? And sometimes we don't think, you know what, someone else might be in a worse position than I am. My situation might be bad, but someone else might be worse. What can I do to help somebody else? It's difficult to think like that because we always focus on ourselves. But here it's like, Paul's like, yeah, I know it's difficult. But remember, first thing, you're the remnant. The remnant does not think like the world. The world, oh me, why? Selfishness. But you are different. Your focus must not be on you, but on other people. Yes, things are difficult. Yes, things are bad. But someone else might have a worse time. You see, be devoted to one another. Think for one another. Honor one another above yourself. See? So the thing of love and goodness and devotion, those three qualities are very, very important. Love, goodness, and devotion. You love one another. You hold on to the goodness of God. 1 John verse 5. 1 John verse 5. It says, God is light. In Him there is no darkness. Of course, when you say God is light, basically light means what? Goodness. Right. So if it says, hold on to the good, cling to the good, hate what is bad. Basically it means hold on to the things of God. Leave the things of the world. Because you are different. Your thinking must be different. Your actions must be different. And from then, verse 11 to 13. then it focuses on what? Our attitudes towards God. Right, let's read it. What does it say? Never be lacking in
zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor serving the Lord.
Right, here we go, let's pause that. Alright, so the first one, never be lacking in what? Zeal. Remember when you're like a young Christian, fresh from the box? How much power and energy did you have? Jesus, me and you forever. I will go to the ends of the world. Remember? We'll do anything for God. Evangelism, we go and everything else. And then later that zeal that is like subsiding. And later it's like now we have, we're making excuses why we cannot do something. Let's go to evangelize. I have another plan. I have to, let's do this. I don't know. Why don't you ask somebody else? We always try to avoid things. The zeal, power, passion, just it's gone. Now, even more so when things are quite difficult, because when you're facing troubles, we're just coming and doing and serving, even in church and doing it, like, it becomes a burden. I don't feel so good today. Why do I have to go to church? I have to sing today. Oh, goodness gracious me, why? You say, why do I always have to do this and that? And so, but this is never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor serving the Lord. Never, ever lose serving the Lord. Now, here's it, very important. It's what? Number one, joyful, joyful Lord, we adore thee. I love that song. Of thine. Right, be joyful in hope. Why? Basically, it's like, guess what? Yeah, things look bad, but there is always hope. If there's no hope, then there is no joy. But because there is hope, what hope? First, everything is temporary. Nothing in this world lasts long. Even suffering. 2, even if we suffer till the end, the hope of a life after death is far more beautiful than the life here now. So, there is always hope, even when things seem bad. That's why when you read 2 Timothy, this is where Paul knows he's going to die. He knows. But when he's writing, when you read 2 Timothy, you read hope. He doesn't, he's not worried about himself. He's worried about other people. You see, he's practicing what he's preaching. He tells people, let your love be sincere, honor other people and blah, blah, blah. So even for him, when he knows, oh, I'm going to die, he's not, oh, God, why me? Oh, Jesus, I'm going to die. He's more like, I'm okay. Whether I'm here or go or I die, it's okay. I'm worried about you. Are you going to be okay? That's his mind. If we were to die, if we knew we are going to die tomorrow, what will we be thinking about? Families, and thinking of what your last meal is going to be, right? And you say, what will be the last thing I want to eat? You say you start making all of these things and whatever, but he's always thinking about how other people. He's not feeling sad for himself. He's thinking about it. And so till we say 끝까지, 맞죠? Till the end, 끝까지. He is always serving and encouraging God's people. Be joyful in hope. Next is what? Patient in
affliction.
this is so difficult. Patient in affliction. Yes, especially for modern people, for modern generation, we like things to be quick and instant. Even our food is instant. 3 minutes, you're eating onions. You know, instant food. Just pop, 2 minutes, microwave, that's your dinner. Right there. Everything's instant, instant, instant. So we want God to be an instant God. But it says what? Patience in affliction. And that is so difficult because I kind of look at it like this. You know, it's like, okay, I don't bake. I don't bake. But my sisters and my mother, they bake very, very well. My wife, I think, quite recently also started taking on baking. But think about this. If you bake a cake and you put the cake in the oven, first you need the right amount of heat. Right? Not too low. Then it will not really be good. Right? You need the right amount of heat. Second, it needs to stay in the heat for the proper amount of time. If you take it out too quickly, you have a delicious cake.
No.
But yet we're like that cake. We want God to just quickly do this quickly. No. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, it's uncomfortable to be in the heat, but we're busy baking. And when the right time comes, when that time comes, when God takes us out, and when our character is still strong, and when our faith is still strong, people will smell that delicious smell and go, wow, you went through all that, and yet look at you now. How did you do it? You just say, I'm delicious. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and what?
Faithful in prayer.
I love this. This is so practical. Faithful in prayer. Not sitting and moping, oh God, why? Our prayer becomes just a complaint session. Oh God, why me? No, pray. Be faithful in prayer. And how do you pray? Thank you, God. The Lord is the declaration of hope. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. That's a declaration of faith. You know, if it's difficult even to start praying, guess what? Sing. 나는 찬양하리라 주님
그를 찬양 예수 크신 주 이름 나 찬양하리라 I sing praises to your name oh Lord praises to your name oh Lord for your name is great and greatly to be praised.
See, there you go. Sometimes it's difficult even to pray. And if it's difficult to pray, sing. Difficult to sing, hum. That's a perfect way to start. Then the words will start coming out. From words of songs and come the words of prayer. You see, be faithful in prayer. Like, let's move on quickly. Now, you have the thing of keeping your zeal to serve God. The thing of hope and patience, of course. Next is keeping of prayer. But of course, verse 14 to 16, then it's also about our attitude during difficulties. Right, attitude during difficulty. This is very essential. It's very important because number one, verse 14 says what?
Bless those who persecute you.
Let's pause there right now. So they're like, what? What'd you say? And here's the thing. What is the? Look at the first one. It says what? Bless. What does it mean to bless? To bless, it means to wish all well. There you go, babe. Bless you. Right. It means to wish all the best. Now, that's why even, especially for the Israelites, the words of blessing are so important. Even to the children, we say the words of blessing, to bless them, because in the hope that those words will become reality even in their lives and in the future. You see? So to bless those who persecute you, it means to wish all well and goodness to those who are bad and evil towards you. Can we do that? No, it's so difficult. Why? We want vengeance. We want every bad things to happen to them. Why? Justice. Justice must be done. And yet we lose grace as well. It says what? Bless those who persecute you. Bless, do not curse. I want you to think about this. The emperor and the soldiers, those who mock and threw Christians at the Colosseum, to fight against gladiators and lions and everything else. Now, I mean, it's like this situation here, where you have the lions and all of those things coming, and then people are cheering because they want to see you die, and the emperors looking, going ha 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 ha. All of these people around you, there is anger, there is hatred, there is madness towards you. And yet, just like Jesus on the cross, what did Jesus say? Father, forgive them. Why, God, why? Why forgive? Send fire and let them burn. And when I die, at least bring the whole comet or crashes on the whole place and everybody dies. That's probably what we pray. But he says, what? No. Bless, do not curse. Right. And also, rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn. It's those who mourn because they've lost a loved one. You're there, you share everything with them. Right. So this is something very important. Live in harmony with one another. Do not try to wonder who's this one, is this a spy or is this bad? Don't try to protect yourself against people, against hurt. It's okay. Love with harmony. Do not hate others. Do not have animosity against someone else. Live in harmony with yourself, with others, other Christians, and even those who persecute you. Those who say bad things and do bad things to you, live in harmony, wish them well, smile, and greet them. You see, they may hate you, they may try to ignore you, you just smile and show goodness towards them. Do not be proud. And of course, next person, do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low positions. The rich must not think like, always go down and help those who really need help. You go down and you be with the people who need help. Attitude towards persecutors. Bless, do not curse. Towards believers. Bless you, baby. Right. So, towards believers, you live in harmony with one another. You cry with those who cry. You rejoice with those who rejoices. And you live in harmony with people. Because towards the poor, you don't ignore the poor. You are with them. You go down to where people need help. Don't try to avoid helping people. Amen. So this is basically what it means to stand out. Because when you do stand out, when you do, let me show you the picture again. Because when you bless the persecutors, you stand out. When your love is real and sincere, you stand out. When you live in harmony with people, with those with Christians and those who do not like you, you stand out. You stand out. Let's see. To love God and you are zealous for God and to serve God, even when it's difficult, you stand out. You see, this is us standing out. And so this is Paul basically showing and telling, basically practically, how this is done. Are you the remnant? Am I the remnant? The remnant that the world thinks I am silly, trash, but yet God says, man, you are more precious than gold or silver. You see, are we that? If we are, let it show. Amen.
Amen.
Any thoughts? Any comments? Has there been situations, for example, difficult situations, or how do you deal with difficult situations in your life?